Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome into the 143. We're here with you live with episode 204. Nick, how are we doing today?
We're doing good. Had a great week of NFL football, a lot of games, a lot of, happy fan bases, a lot of sad fan bases, teams getting good wins, teams blowing the season. So, we're here to talk about it all.
Yes, we are, and we are going to kick it off with the stat of the week brought to you by our sponsor, Andrews Logistics. This is a doozy for you, Nick. For the first time in NFL history, a player had 2 turnovers in one play on Monday Night Football as Jalen Hurts throws an interception. That interception is then fumbled, picked up by Jalen Hurts, and then fumbled by Jalen Hurts. And turnover on downs, Chargers get the ball off the fumble. That's 2 turnovers for Jalen Hurts in one singular play. To put that in fantasy football terms, that's -4 points on one play. And that's hard to do. So, hey, Jalen Hurts making history. Props to him, man. Props to him and props to the Eagles.
Making history. That was a great game. The Eagles tried to win, but Jalen Hurts just refused to let them win. He said, let me throw 4 picks and fumble the ball.
5 turnovers is bad.
Yeah, whatever. But anyways, your player of the week, Josh Allen, threw for 251 yards and 3 touchdowns, ran for 78 yards, and ran one in for a touchdown. So,
boy, Josh
had a good all-purpose yardage game as they beat the Bengals 39-34. That was a big one that we'll be talking about here in a bit. But Josh Allen, known under review player of the week, once again winning that award again. So good for you, Josh Allen.
Yeah, Josh better have a shelf in his house for how many player of the weeks we're giving him, and just understand how big of an honor that is to take that home, because only one player gets it every week. It's hard to do. So stellar performance by Josh. We'll talk about it in a bit, like Nick said. We'll start off Thursday night football game. The Cowboys go to Detroit, and with all the money being on the Cowboys Thursday night, you just knew it wasn't going to be good for the Cowboys. They get blown out, 44-30, but just the defense had no answers for the Lions offense. Jahmyr Gibbs just had his way with the Cowboys in the passing game, especially Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown. At least 3 people were always open on one play, and couldn't get any pressure back there. Dak threw for a lot of yards, 376, had a touchdown. He did throw for 2 picks, both of which were not really his fault. He had no O-line, and at least I think both of them bounced off the receiver's hands. So, it was interesting. CD went out with a concussion after he had 120-something yards. That really hurt. But it just seemed like the Cowboys were playing from behind all game, and the Lions just never took their foot off the gas, which they normally don't do. So it really hurt the Cowboys' playoff chances until Monday Night Football. But, at that point, it seemed like the season was pretty close to being over Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, we'd kind of already talked about, for the Cowboys to have a good chance, they should have ran the table.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Eagles losing helps a little bit. But, I mean, you still think it's over.
Yeah.
Don't really have any hopes. And then the thing is, whoever we play, we're going to get bounced in the first round if we somehow miracle our way into a spot. But Detroit was playing with some passion after enduring a Thanksgiving Day loss to the Packers. So they were looking for a little bounce-back game for themselves. And they just, the offense absolutely throttled the Cowboys. Defense was looking like that first half of the season defense that we know and love. And then the offense was just playing catch-up. It took them it felt like the Cowboys offense was kind of sputtering at the beginning, and it took them a couple drives to get it going. Had a couple had a couple 3-and-outs. Jake Ferguson had a fumble during that game that kind of killed momentum a little bit, and then just could not get any pressure on Jared Goff, could not get any stops on defense, and losing CeeDee Lamb did not help at all. But The Detroit Lions were, we knew they were out for revenge, especially after the way the game went last year. And I think they were, over the last like 2 seasons or something, they're 12-0 in games that they play following a loss. So
it
was just unfortunate to where it wasn't looking too great for the Dallas Cowboys, but I guess you got to move on.
Got to win out to have any shot, but we're moving on to next season already. Just, making sure that everybody really needs to stay healthy at this point and just kind of hopefully be really good next year. But moving on to the Bills game, Bills-Bengals wasn't supposed to be that important of a game, but then the Bengals had come out, had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, and were driving down the field. And then Joe Burrow just snaps the ball, decides to audible from a run, I think, and tries to hit Jamar Chase on a short pass. He puts the pass instead of throwing it, and it's intercepted and taken to the house by the Bills. And then I think the Bills scored, 3 touchdowns within like 5-6 minutes. It was not very long. And then just like that, with Joe Burrow, I think also fumbling the ball throwing another pick right after that pick
the
six.
The very next play,
pretty much gave the game away. This game was on Joe Burrow. He's coming off an injury, and the Bengals had this game won, but the Bengals defense can't stop anything. And so with Joe turning the ball over, one of them being for a pick six, it was pretty much over.
And I mean, even after that pick six, they were still in a spot where they could come down and make something happen, but then just blowing it first play.
Yeah.
So they had the lead at 3 separate points, and they had a 10-point lead twice, and they had an 11-point lead once during the game. So to start the fourth, they were up 28-18. At another point in the game, they were up 21-11, and then at another point in the game, they were up 14-3, and they just let their foot off the gas. Got a little bit too nonchalant there in the fourth quarter, and they paid for it. Bills had a huge fourth quarter.
Give the Bills credit.
This game was more about the Buffalo Bills winning, just because, I mean, Cincinnati's season essentially was already over at that point. I mean, the AFC North is bad enough to where they may have been able to do something if they had won this game, but still, they still are knocking yourselves out of it. But the Bills kind of were kind of under fire there a little bit, just because they had started the season off so hot and looked like such a great team, and then they just slowly started to plateau. But, Josh Allen looking like that MVP talent form that he's supposed to be. Not saying that he should win the MVP this year, but just saying that was
just playing better.
He was playing on Sunday.
Putting the team on his back.
A little bit the last couple weeks. So, huge game for them. And just a classic, seeing it snow like that in Buffalo. Always love to see a good snow game.
Speaking of another cold environment, Lambeau Field, the Packers taking on the Bears in a classic NFC North battle for first place as of right now. And the Packers come away with the win as Caleb Williams throws a pick in the end zone, ending the Bears' chances at the end of the game for a tie to maybe go to overtime. But the Packers come away with a win. Jordan Love actually looked pretty decent. We've kind of given him a hard time on the show a little bit, but he was hitting his spots. Christian Watson was cooking the Bears defense, which has been so good all season. And I think the problem with Chicago, like everyone's been saying, they were the most fraudulent 9-3 team anyone had ever seen because they have no passing game. Caleb Williams is just not a reliable quarterback. He can run the ball really well, but that's not what a quarterback's supposed to do, which we've said about Jalen Hurts as well. That's why the Eagles-Bears game last week was such a rough game to watch, because you had two quarterbacks that don't know how to throw the ball and are somehow getting paid millions of dollars to be a quarterback. So, at the end of the day, Caleb Williams throwing that pick, ending it. He only had an 886 passing yards. Like, that's not ideal. And, the Bears, they've got a great run game, but they've got no passing game. If you don't have a passing game, you're not going to win in the playoffs.
Yeah. Obviously, Bears come away with an early turnover to start the game, picking off Jordan Love pretty early on. But with how bad the Bears offense was that game, they just couldn't come away with anything. Field conditions were pretty interesting. You had a lot of players slipping and sliding out there on the field. It's funny, I saw on the Twitter there was just a montage of all the players that were sliding around on the field. Not that really
a little slick.
Not saying that has anything to do with anything, but just something to notice. Obviously, both teams had to endure that as they're both playing on the same field. But Christian Watson having a big game is pretty huge, because they had I think this was one of the few times where they had all their receivers out there at the same time, where they had Watson, Dobbs, Wicks,
Reed.
And then, Josh Jacobs as well was out there. He had been battling
an injury
a little bit the last couple weeks. But Jordan Love getting it done there towards the end. Chicago looked like they were going to come back and kind of make it a game, but just a sloppy interception at the end of the game cost Chicago the game. Normally, these games aren't this meaningful between these two teams, but this was a battle for the top of the division.
And they will play again.
Move to 9-3-1, and Chicago moves to 9-4.
Yeah, they'll play again though here in a couple weeks, so it'll probably matter even more in a couple weeks. But just a gritty NFC North matchup. And talking about gritty Sunday Night Football, they just put a absolute banger of a game on Sunday Night Football as usual. We had Texans visiting the Chiefs and essentially ending the Chiefs' AFC West hopes and probably their playoff hopes as well. The Chiefs are just a shell of the team they used to be this season. Travis Kelce cannot catch a ball to save his life anymore. And the Texans' defense is legit. They're number one defense in the league, and they show time in and time out that they're a force to be reckoned with. If the Texans somehow sneak into the playoffs, their offense is not very good, but their defense will suffocate a team. And that's why it's very, very tough to play the Texans. I think this game came down to just a pivotal, awful decision from Coach Andy Reid on the Chiefs. They had a 4th and 1 on their own 30. Their defense had been getting it done all second half because C.J. Stroud had 0 passing yards in the third quarter. And they decided to go for it on 4th and 1 on their own 30 in a tie ball game with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, which essentially let Houston just automatically in field goal range to be able to take the lead. And pretty much was over from there after that. They should have punted the ball for sure.
Yeah, that was a pure boneheaded play. That's just I was looking at it. It was actually it was at their own 41. It's not quite the 30, 41. But okay, still, the way that the Chiefs' offense or defense had been playing in the second half versus the Texans' offense, I think anybody in the right mind would have been punting that ball away, just because, they hadn't been able to move at all. And so even still, if they get 5-6 yards on that, when they turn it over, you're still letting them into field goal range. So why would you not punt the ball away to, not give up any free points? But then they shorten the field for Houston.
Yep.
Give them a shot to score a touchdown and go ahead, which they do. And then,
they just couldn't figure it out on offense all night.
Just struggled the entire second half, what it was looking like. They came out firing, but then they just stalled out there in the fourth quarter. Travis Kelce has been struggling with drops. I mean, he's had some stone hands.
He's had some interceptions because of his hands happen this season. Some costly picks.
I was gonna say, yeah, he had one that it wasn't just that he dropped it; it was that he,
Bopped it up.
Hit it
He
straight
did that
up.
same thing in the Eagles game too, which gave the Eagles the win when they played them.
The goal line.
So just, neither one of these teams really needs to be in the playoffs, but because of how good the Texans defense is, they could potentially see the 7 seed, I think. And, no team's going to want to go up against the Texans this postseason just because of how amazing their defense is. But they've got a lot to figure out on offense.
But I guess speaking of the AFC South, we should mention it just a little bit. Colts go to Jacksonville and get thrashed by Jacksonville's offense. But most notably, I would say from that game is Daniel Jones leaving with an injury and coming back in a walking boot. They had been
his Achilles
rolling
officially
the entire season with Daniel Jones at the helm, Jonathan Taylor back there playing MVP caliber football, and that essentially just unfortunately
it ends the season.
Ends the Colts season.
Now, there are reports that they will work out Phillip Rivers this week to see if he can be their quarterback this season for the rest of the season. They might not make playoffs, but I would love to see Phillip come back and sling the pill. He's 44 years old. His oldest son is older than Tyler Warren, the tight end on the Colts. And there's talks they are going to work him out this week. So wouldn't that be cool?
I mean, that's just a waste of time and money, if you ask me.
Nick,
because he's going to go out there and he's going to lose his life. I mean,
he might.
He just doesn't have the mobility at all out there.
Well, he's never had the mobility.
We'll see if he's still got that
I doubt he clears the workout.
Desire.
I doubt he clears the workout. But that would be cool to see just because at this point the Colts season is probably over. But if they were to go after anyone, I'm sure maybe Joe Flacco could get the Bengals to release him so he could go play for the Colts or something. But, I don't –
snag Ben DiNucci.
That's true. He is available. But another couple teams that have no offense is the Monday Night Football game, which we already hinted on in the stat of the week. As the Eagles visit the Chargers and lose in overtime on a Jalen Hurts 4th pick of the game on the 2-yard line, basically, in overtime. The MVP of this game was Cameron Dicker, who had 5 field goals for the Chargers. And, the Eagles and the Chargers both looked bad.
I mean, Justin Herbert was the leading rusher for the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, not that it's insane to have a quarterback leading the rushing stat, but you just don't really think of Justin Herbert as being that guy.
Right.
But he ran around for 60. Obviously, getting Omarion Hampton back helped. Is just helping, I guess, locker room presence for the Chargers, just because he's a stud young talent who is going to make some big plays for you, but. Offensively, they just could not get anything going. They were struggling to complete passes. I think, if I remember correctly, Justin Herbert was sacked a total of 7 times.
Yeah, his O-line is awful.
Yes,
the Chargers O-line is terrible.
7 times. He was playing with a beat-up left hand, had a little...
He just had surgery on it.
Pad on it.
Yeah.
And, had this thing of tape on it. And I mean, that's just kind of the narrative that it's always been, I feel like, for Justin Herbert, where he is just getting annihilated in the backfield.
Yeah. And, the Chargers are okay, but they're probably not good enough to do anything this season. But we got to talk about the Eagles. The Cowboys need the Eagles to lose twice more, and the Cowboys have to win out. So the division, it's almost out of reach. But as a Cowboys fan, it will always be satisfying to see the Eagles fail. And I think as two guys that have been saying since the beginning of Jalen Hurts' career that he's not a good quarterback. And for everyone to finally be recognizing that, because he can't hide behind – Saquon had 122 tonight, but this is nothing like last season where they hid behind Saquon's historic performances. Now he's having – it's fallen upon Jalen Hurts to make the plays, and he can't. 5 turnovers in one game is insane. The only quarterback to win a game and do that is Jared Goff that I'm aware of against the Texans, I think last year or 2 years ago. But 4 picks is just ridiculous. I don't think he really got any fantasy points for all you fantasy owners out there with Jalen Hurts. But, it's an abysmal performance. They're a bad offense. And Eagles fans were ready to fire the OC like 5 games ago and cut Jalen Hurts. And, Eagles fans are the worst fans out there. They are probably ready for everyone to be fired on the team.
Yeah, we've been saying it all year. That you need to tune into the Eagles offense, that trust me, they are not like that. And, forcing Jalen Hurts to throw the ball down the field, forcing him to make good decisions, taking away – They didn't even take away the run game tonight because Saquon ran for well over 100, and he's still out here throwing picks every other play.
Yeah.
But, they were in a position – defense at least held the Chargers to a field goal in overtime, So the Eagles defense puts the Eagles offense in a position to go down and win the game. And what does Jalen Hurts do? He drives all the way down the field just to throw the game away on a pick.
Which was awesome to see.
We've been saying it all year. He's not a good decision maker, not a good thrower of the ball. And, it's been getting exposed the last couple weeks. I don't think we've got enough season remaining for them to blow it and for the Cowboys to take over the division, because they play the Raiders next week, then they play the Commanders, Bills, and then Commanders again. So you can
see probably 1 loss, but not 2.
About needing the Cowboys to win out. So that Detroit loss is huge. And there's no guarantees that we win out either.
We went out, right?
We got to play the Chargers, and who knows, they'll win nasty. Justin Jefferson's going to dice up the secondary.
It really doesn't matter. Like, the Detroit loss was like one of those losses where it's like, okay, the Lions are a good team. It really was just the bad losses earlier this season, and Cardinals, Panthers, those 2 losses are really glaring you down in the face. Just some of those just getting blown out by the Bears, getting blown out by the Broncos, games we didn't even compete in. We really shot ourselves in the foot. But like I said, I like where we're at for next season. And hopefully we go get some secondary in the offseason.
What we need, what we have. I like Javonte Williams. Got to bring him back. George Pickens, he's going to be extremely
I think franchise tag. I
think do what you got to do to keep him. Brandon Aubrey, give him a blank check, whatever he wants.
Yep. Give him an ownership stake.
Offensively, I'm not super duper concerned. It's definitely defensively. DaRon Bland, we inked him that humongous contract earlier in the season, and he played like booty for.
He's been bad.
He was horrible before that, but he was even worse after that. And then made a couple decent moves defensively, like picking up Quinnen Williams. Getting Overshown back was huge. Logan Wilson, not the worst player in the world, but, we just have so many holes defensively still. Definitely need an entire new secondary. Scrap everybody.
Yes, we do.
But anyways, here's like in our shows and under review. Brought to you a quote from the Tim Tebow, and he said, "Following the crowd is not a winning approach to life."
Ain't that the truth? Thank you for tuning in this week, and we will see you next week with another episode of Under Review.